Proper installation is critical to maintaining Category 5 performance. In this video, proper installation procedures for Systimax SCS Category 5 products will be presented. There are several things to avoid when handling jacketed cables. For example, bends that are greater than 90 degrees. There should be no reason to fold the cable back on itself. Avoid tight twisting. This usually happens when tie wraps are tightened and you are still pulling around corners and bends. Avoid tears. Hardware with rough edges can do this. When scoring the end of the jacket, avoid cutting into the copper conductors. The TIA-EIA standards place a limit on the bending radius of 4-pair cables in termination spaces of 4 times the cable diameter. Lucent Technologies has qualified 1061 and 2061 4-pair cables to fit within the confines of a 2-inch space, such as a 2-inch by 4-inch electrical box. We also allow for 90-degree bends, if needed, typically at the edges of an outlet. When handling unjacketed pairs, there are a few things to be aware of. Bending without tension causes pairs to spread apart and should be avoided. A simple way to deal with this is to provide tension underneath a bend and the pair will stay together. Let's look at how this applies to a 110 wiring block termination. When terminating on the 110 wiring block, come around to the front with a little bit of pull. This keeps the conductors together and also makes them go down deep in the channel. This also avoids degradation when you pull the other cables on top of them. When you do the termination itself, put your thumb or finger under it when making the final bend, and that way the pressure will keep the pair together. Instead of turning the conductor and twisting it to get the proper conductor on the proper side, move up or down until the conductors line up in position. This allows an easy termination and the distortion is minimal. Here are some things to avoid when you are doing 110 terminations. Here the brown conductors have spread apart because the pair wasn't pulled as it went around the edge. Tight pulling will take care of that. On the other side, this 90-degree bend onto the index strip has caused the orange pair to spread apart. Putting your finger or thumb under the bend to provide tension will avoid that. Here, after placing the conductors in the index strip, note the pair has been untwisted considerably before the index strip. Pull the pair off the index strip and slide it up. The spread in this orange pair can also be fixed most of the time by pulling with a spudger. Occasionally, you may have trouble getting the pairs separated over the 110 index strip. To make this easier, hold the conductor down on the index strip and do a slight unwinding crank. The conductors will come apart for a short length and will be easy to place in. This procedure is especially useful for the 25-pair cable with its tight twists. You can get excellent terminations maintaining the twist right up to the index strip. This 110 patch panel is not being terminated in a normal progression. It is set up to show each step in the termination procedure. Let's start with this orange cable. The first cable pull group is divided 3 to the left and 3 to the right. The second cable pull group is similarly divided. The reason for the left-right separation is that the cables from the left will be terminated on the left side of the wiring block and go no further than halfway across. The same thing happens on the right side. Once the cables are in place, you can begin scoring. Simply mark the cables at a point about where they exit the panel, and then, as shown for these blue cables below, pull them out of the opening, slide the tie wraps back, and complete the scoring for all 6 cables. Once they are all scored, place them back in the opening. When all 4 groups are scored, put the 110 wiring block onto the panel. Use the rivets to hold the 110 wiring block on the panel. You are now ready to do the cable terminations. Select the first cable and cut it off at a suitable distance to make the jacket removal easy. Pull the jacket off and begin terminating. First the blue, orange, green, and then brown. With the first cable, make sure that the individual pairs are pushed out of the way of the other cables. Push them down without making the pairs come apart. Then you can go on to the rest of the cables. Let's look at some more details. Put your thumb or finger under the pair and position the bend up or down so that the pair twist lines up with the index strip. Do this with every pair. The result is that if you look through all of these terminations, you find that some come in fairly high before they bend down to the index strip, and some come in a little more direct. It all depends on where the pair twist lines up with the index strip. When you are done, take some time to scan across and make sure that none of the pairs are degraded. Look for twists that have come apart and use the 110 spudger to make sure that they are set together. Then use the 110 punch-down tool to cut the conductors, as done for this strip down here. Then install the connecting blocks as done for this strip down here. Once the blocks are on, complete the installation by taking care of the administration labeling as done on the bottom block. The 25-pair 1061 cable is terminated similarly. Position 1 in each slot. At the point where it exits, score the cable and replace it. Do the same for the other side. You are now ready to place the 110 wiring block. Here, the 25 pair cable is in position. Slide the jacket off a little to see the color code. From the left side, look for the white color code group. Spin it just a little to get it into position. Then pull off the jacket, exposing the strand units. The first strand unit has the white group. Pull it around in the direction of the index strip. Cut it short so that it can be easily positioned over the termination. Unstrand it and start with the first pair, white-blue. The easiest way to get the pair terminated is to hold it against the index strip with one finger and unwind it to open the twist and make it easier to separate. Then terminate the other pairs. White-orange, white-green, and white-brown. As before, this strand unit is in the way of the other pairs to be terminated. Push them down and out of the way, making sure that the pairs do not spread apart. The next strand unit has one remaining white pair. Pull it around, keeping the strand unit together. Cut it short enough to be manageable, and then take it apart far enough to bend the slate white pair up onto the index strip. Unwind the pair slightly and place it on. From there, start the red group with the blue-red pair and then orange-red. The remaining red group is from the third strand unit, which also starts the black color code group. Pull it across and twist slightly as you pull across. Cut it short enough to be manageable, then separate the brown-red and terminate. Once you go through all the terminations, push the end pairs out of the way so that the cable from the other side can be terminated without interference. This will be the same procedure. Position and slide the jacket off to start terminating. From this side, instead of starting with a white pair group, start from this end and go the other way. This will keep the strand units together as you go through the termination. Keeping the strand units together provides a slight advantage in performance. Start with the violet group. Cut it short enough to be manageable and terminate the violet slate pair. The next one is violet-brown, then violet-green. Follow the color code backwards as you go across. The second strand unit has the remainder of the violet group and the beginning of the yellow group. Continue this way until completion. Once the terminations have been checked, install 5 pair connecting blocks over the terminated conductors. When you are done, place the administration labels on the front. This is a 110 Category 5 jack panel. It is not terminated in a normal progression, but set up to show the individual steps in termination. Let's go through the sequence. First, cut the cable pull group open. Run the first 3 cables to the left, then the second 3 to the right. In the next step, score the cables up close to the panel by pulling them out as far as they will go. Once they are all scored, select the first cable, pull it across, cut it just a little longer than needed, and slide the jacket off. This is where the termination begins. It is similar to the 110 patch panel system, except that the terminations are on top of the 110 connecting block. First do the white-blue pair, then white-orange, then white-green, then white-brown. When you are done, push them down on the panel base so the other cables can go over them without interference. Once you have completed all of the terminations, scan across the panel to make sure the terminations are done without degradation. Most of these are good. But, by example, this white-brown pair has come apart. To fix it, use a spudger to pull it around the final turn and force the pair together. The same can happen with the white-orange pair. Again, just tighten it inside the bend to make it come together. Here is another white-brown pair that has come spread at the termination. The conductors should be pulled close together. One precaution when using the spudger with the 110 Category 5 jack panel is to avoid scratching the printed wiring board so as not to cut the printed conductors. Once you have completed the terminations, finish with the administration label. The 25 pair 1061 cable is terminated the same way. First bring it down through the panel, then place it through the left or right opening. Score the cable by pulling it out to score close to the block. Slide the jacket off slightly to examine the color code. Rotate the cable slightly so that the white color code group is closest to the panel to begin terminating. This is why the cable should be kept loose initially. Once it is in position, slide the jacket off, exposing the strand units. Keep the strand units together. This is similar to the 110 patch panel, except that the 25 pair color code must be followed and the 4 pair color code of the jack panel should be ignored. Starting with the white group first, pull it across, giving a slight twist. Cut it short enough to manage and unstrand the unit. Terminate the pairs 1 through 24 as shown previously on the 110 patch panel. Once you have completed the terminations, take a moment to examine them. Here is one that got reversed. Use the spudger to hold it in place as you fix it because you don't want to pull it out and tangle it with the other conductors. The 25th pair is not used, so fold it back so that it remains in the slot. The next step is to seat and cut the conductors. Then install the administration labels. The assembly of the PatchMax distribution system begins with the panel, the rear retainer, and the Velcro straps that mount to the retainer. Begin by separating the 4 straps which are attached to one another. Then position a strap over one of the indentations in the retainer. Insert the tongue of the strap through the buckle and pull tightly. Repeat this procedure for the remaining 3 straps. Attach the rear retainer to the rear of the panel by placing the hook at the left end of the retainer in the bracket at the left end of the panel. Applying slight pressure to the right end of the retainer, place the hook at the right end of the retainer in the bracket at the right end of the panel. The rear retainer is now attached to the rear of the panel. We are now ready to mount the panel to an equipment rack. To do this, use the 4 screws that are included with the PatchMax distribution hardware or the screws that were shipped with your equipment rack. Position the panel on the rack. Install 4 screws and tighten them. Each PatchMax distribution module has a code that appears in this window. The letter A or B in this code indicates whether a particular module is wired with the T568A or T568B pinout. Next, install the appropriate label on each of the distribution modules. In addition to the label for the rear of the module, there is a label for the front. Remove the front label and set it aside. Then remove the rear label from its carrier by separating it at the perforations. Note that the rear label has the 25 pair color code designations on one side and 4 pair color code designations on the opposite side. In this example, the 4 pair color code designation side will be used. Place the label between the columns of connectors. Apply pressure to the labels at the top of connectors 1 and 5 to lock the label into place. Once the labels are installed, slide the first module into an opening in the panel and engage the mounting pins on the sides of the module into the slots in the panel opening. Rotate the module into the upright position until the latch engages. Repeat this procedure for the remaining modules. The procedures for terminating 4-pair cables on PatchMax distribution hardware from the rear of the panel will now be demonstrated. Note that in rare cases where extremely limited space exists behind an equipment rack, cables may be terminated from the front of the panel. Refer to the instruction sheet shipped with the PatchMax distribution hardware for details of this procedure. In order to terminate 6 4-pair cables on a module, begin by positioning the cable bundle under the strap behind the module to be used. Wrap the strap around the cable bundle and secure the strap. Next, create a slack loop in order to allow the module to be removed without disturbing the cable terminations. Do this by extending all 6 cables to a point behind the center of the adjacent module. Note that the slack loop for the leftmost group of 6 4-pair cables will extend beyond the edge of the panel. The next step is to remove a portion of the cable jacket. In order to determine where to begin the jacket removal, position the 4-pair cable so that the midpoint of the slack loop is at the center of the adjacent module, or aligned with the strap behind the adjacent module. The jacket should end near the bottom of the column of connectors on which it will be terminated. Next, place the 4-pair bundle under the wire manager located at the base of column 1. Separate the conductors of the white-blue pair and pull them into place on the connector. Repeat this procedure for the remaining pairs. A spudger may be used for spreading the conductors in order to get them into the correct position. Once the pairs are in position, use a de-impact tool to seat and cut each of the 8 conductors. All 4 pairs on the first column have now been properly terminated. Repeat the termination procedure for the 5 remaining 4-pair cables. After all of the cables have been terminated on a panel, a length of the Velcro tape that is included with the panel may be used for managing cable bundles. The tape may be placed over the corners of the rear retainer. Again, note that the slack loop for the leftmost group of cables extends beyond the edge of the panel. Here is an alternative method for routing the cables. In this example, the slack is stored behind the rear retainer instead of between the retainer and the panel. This method is particularly useful when terminating 4-pair cables with stiff, rigid jackets. You should not store the slack of rigid jacketed cables between the rear retainer and the panel. Instead, allow the slack to be stored behind the rear retainer, as shown here. This is yet another method for routing cables at the rear of the panel. In this case, the 6 cable groups are broken out at the strap and routed directly to the rear of the module with no slack loop. This arrangement is satisfactory where there is plenty of workspace behind the equipment rack, and it is not necessary to access the pair terminations from the front of the rack. The procedures for terminating 25-pair cables on PatchMax distribution hardware from the rear of the panel will now be demonstrated. Note that in rare cases where extremely limited space exists behind an equipment rack, cables may be terminated from the front of the panel. Refer to the instruction sheet shipped with the PatchMax distribution hardware for details of this procedure. Because 25-pair cables are going to be terminated, the 4-pair color code designation will not be used. Therefore, flip the label over to reveal the 25-pair color code designation. Place the label between the columns of connectors. Apply pressure to the labels at the top of connectors 1 and 5 to lock the label into place. After labeling and installing all 4 modules, prepare to strip the jacket from the first 25-pair cable. Strip off about 12 inches of jacket and secure the cable to the rear retainer using the first strap. Use 2 pieces of Velcro tape to hold the unjacketed pairs together in a bundle. The bundle will be used to form a slack loop directly behind the module. After tightening the 2 Velcro ties around the bundle of unjacketed pairs, identify the 6 4-pair units to be terminated. The colors of the pairs in each bundle will match the colors of the labels on each column of connectors. Twist the end of each bundle to maintain pair groupings. Place the first 4 pairs in their proper positions on the module and use the de-impact tool to seat and cut each of the 8 conductors. After the first 4 pairs have been terminated, you are ready to proceed to pairs 5 through 8. Position the remaining pairs and use the de-impact tool to seat and trim each of the conductors. The slate violet pair is stored by wrapping it around the pair bundle and tucking the end of it under one of the Velcro straps. The remaining 25 pair Category 5 cables are terminated in a similar fashion. Note that as cables are added to a panel, all of the jackets are tied down to the rear retainer using the Velcro straps. Labels are inserted on the front of the modules for identifying terminations. White labels are included with the PatchMax patch panel kits. Additional labels may be ordered. Labels are available in each of the colors described in the TIA-EIA 606 administration standard. To install a label, simply slide it into the label holder until it stops. In addition to labels, colored icons are also available. The icons are stamped on one side with the image of a telephone and on the opposite side with the image of a PC. The icons come in strips of 6 and are easily installed by pressing them into place. If desired, the strip may be broken into individual icons. The 5 front retainers are installed by placing the top prong into the top slot on the panel. Then rotate downward until the bottom prongs engage the slots in the panel. Modular patch cords are used for making cross connections on the front of the PatchMax distribution hardware. Slots are provided at the ends of the panels for securing strips of Velcro tape. These may be used for managing bundles of patch cords. We have 3 1100 Category 5 panels installed on a small rack system. For small installations like this, you can use standard rack hardware and cable tie-down methods. For larger installations, we recommend a rack system that has cable management hardware on it. One 6-cable group is done already, and we will demonstrate using the following groups. For this panel, the termination groups are arranged for 6 cable terminations, 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. The jacket ends at the leading edge of the 110 connecting block that it will be terminated to. Bring the pairs across, keeping all the twists together. Make sure that the brown pair shows at least one twist to ensure that it has not been untwisted into the cable. All 6 of the cables go through the cable holder at the end of the group. Let's do the first termination. Line the cable up and do the scoring at the leading edge of the 110 connecting block, in this case block number 7. Remove the jacket and push it through the cable slot. The first pair will be the white-brown. The cable should be a little bit high of center. Next, terminate the white-green pair. Move it up or down, looking for the position where the two conductors are on the proper side, and push it into place. Then place the white-orange pair, looking for the proper position. Unwind it slightly, and then push it into place. Next, place the white-blue pair. Look for the right position, and push it in. Once the conductors are in the right position, seat and cut them. Note that the D-impact tool must be used for terminations on the 1100 Cat 5 panel. The 788J1 tool must not be used. Before moving on to the next group, go through and check to make sure that all of the pairs are maintained. Some of the pairs may have spread apart and should be fixed. Also, make sure that each brown pair has a twist showing and was not untwisted into the jacket. This time we will terminate the 25-pair 1061 cable. This cable should be bent shallow, greater than a 10-inch radius. Tie the cable loosely to be tightened after the termination. It does not go into the other cable holding slots, just tied down so it is coming from the proper direction. Score the cable at the leading edge of the group of 6 blocks. Slide the jacket off slightly to see where the white color code group is. If it is not facing the first 110 connecting block, spin the cable to make the termination more direct. Then pull the jacket off and push it through the cable holding slot. Unstrand the first group. The color code matches the 110 connecting block. Keep in mind that the 1100 panel uses the 4-pair color coding and does not match the 25-pair color code. Start with white-blue, white-orange, white-green, and make sure there is some twist showing on white-brown. The next strand group has the white slate and the red code group to be terminated on the next connecting block. Push the other pairs out of the way and start with white slate on the blue terminal. The red-blue is set onto the orange terminal, and the red-orange is set onto the green terminal. Remove the red-green from the third strand unit and set it onto the brown terminal. The third connecting block starts with the red-brown on the blue terminal. Slate red is set onto the orange terminal. The green terminal will seat the first pair from the black group, black-blue. Terminate the remaining pairs through pair 24. The 25th pair remains unterminated. Just turn it around and insert it into the cable holding slot. The M1000 Multimax panel terminates using M100 or MPS100 modular connectors. The outlets are inserted into mounting collars which are clipped to the M1000 panel. They can be snapped into a mounted collar or installed before mounting. Bring the cable up through the slot from the back, line up the pairs, and terminate. The M100 termination will be demonstrated in detail shortly, but let's finish this one. For T568B wiring, the blue pair is first, then the green pair, then orange, then brown. We'll use the M100 caps instead of the impact tool. Remove the caps and inspect the termination. The last step is to turn it right side up in the panel. Do not push the collar in because it is upside down. The electrical contacts should be on the top where they will not collect dust. The collar can be turned either way, but should be turned in the direction that does not fold the cable. Since the cable is coming from the left and back, turn clockwise to avoid twisting. Then insert the collar. As an alternative, the outlet can be terminated separate from the panel, then inserted into the collar. Bend the cable slightly to place it into the holding slot, then turn it right side up in the panel. The procedure for the MPS 100 outlet is similar to what was shown here for the M100. The M100 modular outlet is used at work locations and in the Multimax M1000 panel. Before terminating, check that you are using an M100 outlet. It is labeled Cat 5 on the front. Also, note whether you are wiring T568A or T568B. Let's go through a termination of a T568B connector. Remove a short amount of jacket from the end of the cable. For T568B, the white-blue pair is the first one terminated. Untwist it up to the end of the jacket, but no further, not into the jacket. Then add either a full or half tight twist so that the blue and white conductors are oriented in the proper directions. Hold it, centered on the outlet, and pull the conductors into the slots. At this point, the cable and connector should hold together. The white-green pair is next. Untwist it so that about one twist remains, and add either a full or half tight twist so that the green and white conductors are oriented in the proper direction. An easy way to insert these conductors is to place your thumb down on the inside channel and pull the conductor with your other hand. Do the same on the other side. Next, terminate the white-orange pair. At the white-orange termination slots, bend the pair 90 degrees. Check to see if the conductors are in the proper orientation. If not, turn the twist around and reform the bend. Open the pair over the slots, use your thumb to hold the pair down inside, and pull the conductors into the slots. Do the same with the white-brown pair. You should add a twist to the brown pair as the 90-degree bend is being formed. Pull the conductors into the slots. Use wire cutters to trim the conductors close to the outlet. Then use the plastic caps to seat the conductors into the contacts. Remove the caps to inspect the terminations. Check that the conductors were pushed in, and also verify that the caps have not been damaged. Reinstall the caps to complete the termination. With non-plenum cables, the conductor installation is hard, so most installers would prefer to use the impact tool. Let's perform a termination this way. Remove the jacket. Start with the white-blue pair. Untwist it down to the end and add the tight twist as before. Then pull it into the slots. Use the impact tool at this point. Hold the M100 carefully. Form and insert the white-green pair as before. Use the impact tool on the white-green pair. Again, hold the M100 carefully. Form and insert the white-orange pair as before, then use the impact tool. Complete this termination with the white-brown pair. Inspect it before the caps are installed. To assure quality, the white-blue pair should go straight into and separate directly in the wiring channel. A tight twist should be visible. The white-green pair should go straight into the channel and separate directly between the IDC slots. It should show no spreading, and at least one uniform twist should be visible. The white-orange pair should also go straight through the channel and separate directly in front of the IDC slots. Avoid the plastic ridge between the two slots if you are using the impact tool, because it can crush the pair. The white-brown pair should also go straight through the channel and separate directly in front of the IDC slots. Again, avoid the plastic ridge. The white-brown pair should look very similar to the white-orange pair. Occasionally, when forming the bend on the white-orange or white-brown pair, the pair can spread open inside the channel. Fix this by lifting the pair out of the slots and yanking the pair together by turning it back toward its original direction. Once completed, the M100 outlet is typically mounted in an outlet box. This tends to force cable movement and bending at the back of the M100 outlet. The procedures just demonstrated will protect against performance problems under these conditions. This is the procedure for terminating a 4-pair Category 5 cable on the MPS 100 outlet. The MPS 100 outlet is identified by the MPS 5 lettering on the front of the outlet, by its white plastic wire channel, and by the MPS 100 designation on its label. Pairs are terminated on the MPS 100 outlet differently than on the older M100 outlet, in that pairs are not split across the channel. That is to say that the white-blue pair is terminated on one side of the outlet, the white-green pair on the other. The white-brown pair is terminated on one side, the white-orange pair on the other. Looking at the pairs as they exit the cable jacket, position the white-blue pair to one side and the white-green pair to the other. Then position the two pairs so that they go directly into the wire slots on the outlet. Separate the two conductors that make up each pair so that they can be inserted into the wire slots. Because the green conductor must be closest to the jacket, place a tight half twist in the white-green pair to properly position the conductors. Next, place the two pairs into the wiring slots. Now add a tight half twist to the white-brown pair. Insert it into the wiring slots. Finally, insert the white-orange pair into the wiring slots. All 4 pairs are now in the proper position and are ready to be trimmed. Trim the conductors from both sides of the outlet. Install the dual wire cap and seat it using pliers. Pry the cap off of the outlet. Check to see that all 8 wires are seated. Make sure that the cap has not been damaged. Replace the cap and snap it on with thumb pressure. When looking at opposite ends of a 4-pair Category 5 cable, the pair positions are reversed. At one end of the cable, the white-blue and white-green pairs exit the jacket on top of the white-orange and white-brown pairs. At the opposite end of the cable, the white-orange and white-brown pairs exit the jacket on top of the white-blue and white-green pairs. You must leave the pairs in their natural positions when terminating. Do not attempt to wrap pairs around each other when terminating them on the MPS 100 outlet. Note that it is permissible to install outlets with up to 4 centimeters of jacket removed at the termination point. In doing this, make sure that the pairs don't spread apart. This is accomplished by looping the pairs around a finger prior to storing them in an outlet box. Zone wiring is supported by Systimax SCS. Zone wiring includes a 25-pair Category 5 horizontal cable from the telecommunications closet to a consolidation point or multi-user outlet. Systimax SCS offers both flush-mounted and surface-mounted solutions for zone wiring. This is the procedure for terminating a 25-pair Category 5 cable on 6 M100 outlets mounted in an M16 faceplate. This procedure is simplified if a board is positioned under the outlet box for supporting the outlets during termination. The cable must be free to move in and out of the outlet box. Remove the labels from the sheet and attach them to the M100 outlets. There are 6 outlets to be labeled. Remove about 5 inches of jacket from the cable. Trim off the binder string. Terminate the first 4 pairs from the 25-pair cable on the M100 outlet labeled for the first 4 pairs. White-blue, white-green, white-brown, and white-orange. Keep all 4 pairs about the same length. Visually inspect the terminations. Trim the conductors from both sides of the outlet. Install the wire caps and snap them into place with thumb pressure. Terminate the remaining 5 M100 outlets according to the color codes on their labels. The slate violet pair will not be terminated. In order to fit the terminations into the outlet box, it is necessary to curl each of the pair units around a finger to form a compact loop. Do this in color code sequence. The purpose for this is to minimize the space required and to keep the pairs from spreading apart as they are placed into the outlet box. Next, place the outlets into the faceplate in numerical sequence. Number 1, number 2, remember to keep the pairs together in their loop, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. Once all the outlets are in place, each of the 4 pair groups should be staying together. Position the faceplate so the cable is pushing in the right direction to enter the box. Position the 25th pair around the other pairs. Slowly push the cable back through the box as you position the faceplate. Finally, the faceplate is secured to the box with screws. Now let's see how to terminate a 25-pair Category 5 cable in a surface-mounted zone box. First, label the 6 M100 outlets to be used for terminating the cable. Remove about 8 inches of jacket from the cable. Trim off the binder string. Tie wrap the cable in position. Terminate the first 4 pairs from the 25-pair cable on the M100 outlet labeled for the first 4 pairs. Provide a small amount of slack. Trim off excess wire to minimize the need for untwisting. First, terminate the white-blue pair. Then white-green. Then white-brown. And finally, white-orange. Position the slack out of the way of the other ports. Check that the pairs are in the correct positions. Trim the conductors from both sides of the outlet. Install the wire caps and snap them into place with thumb pressure. Once all 6 outlets are finished, check to see that the wire groups are not spread apart and that there is no damage to any of the conductor insulation. Wrap the 25th pair into a loop for storage. Nibble out the opening for the cable entrance. Position the cover and secure the screw. This completes the termination of a 25-pair Category 5 cable in the 6-outlet zone box. The procedures shown in this video were current at the time of production. However, we recommend that prior to installation you check the printed instructions packed with the product.